Has she committed a crime by being your wife? You wake up very early in the morning. You sit down in the dining while your wife goes into the kitchen. She has to prepare the food that the children will eat. She has to take care of the children. She has to bath the children and make sure that the children are ready for school. You are sitting down on the dining table. She will serve the kids, make sure the kids are okay, and she will also serve you too. Oh God, what are you doing that morning that you cannot be of help to her? You already know that your day does not start until around 11 o'clock. You already know that your appointment is by 11 o'clock. What does it take from you to wake up very early in the morning with your wife and say, okay, Freeman Achi is the name, and I want to thank you guys for being a part of today's podcast. Like always, I'm a photographer. This is what I like to do when I'm not behind the camera, when I'm not taking photos. I like to talk about relationship. All right, let's get this started. So today, I want to stress on the fact that it is your fault how your children turns out. You see, one of the things about separation, about divorce or separation of any kind, mostly when children are involved, is that it is both parties seldom see the fact that it is their responsibility that their child turned out a certain way. Now, it is quite unfortunate that when you're beginning to go through the process of divorce and you start talking about divorce, it's quite unfortunate that sometimes some of the elements involved in the process of that divorce, like when you have kids, when you have properties together, it is quite unfortunate that they become the collateral damage. And sometimes the reason why it is difficult for couples to see some of these damages, it is difficult for them to see, is because self comes into play more often than the real calling of parenthood. Parenthood is a calling. It's a calling just like any other calling. When you are called to do something, there is a certain responsibility that is required of you. Your calling requires you to make a lot of sacrifice. Your calling requires you to do certain things that are outside your place of comfort. But you have to do it because it is something that you are called to do. It's something that you have been programmed to do. It's something you have been assigned to do. So a calling is just like an assignment. So it is about parenting. Parenting is an assignment. It's something you have been called to do. It's something that you have been given a responsibility to do. And so when you begin to go through the process of divorce, sometimes as parents, you forget the responsibility that you are called to raise a family, that you are called to raise these children. These children didn't ask to come to this earth on their own being. And so when you're going through the process of divorce, when couples are going through the process of divorce and separation, all of a sudden they forget about the calling. They forget about the responsibility. They forget about their assignment. They forget that there is something that they have been assigned to do. They forget that there is a responsibility that they have. So most of the time, when they forget, and the only thing that makes them to forget, you can tell that they have forgotten about their responsibility or they're forgetting about their calling and assignment. You can tell because you start hearing statement that has to do with self. Self begins to take part of this, most of the statement that comes out of their mouth. You begin to hear them say things like, what about me? What about my own happiness? Have you ever considered me? Do you consider how I feel? And sometimes when you're advising a couple that is going through separation and going through divorce, sometimes you think you are sounding by telling them that their own happiness matters too. You think you're trying to sound in their own best interest by telling them their own happiness matters. But sometimes when you begin to, when you start getting engulfed with your own happiness, you forget about what happens to the next person, what happens to the next party. And as a parent, whenever your happiness is of more priority to you, whenever how you feel and how you feel and what happens inside of you becomes of more priority to you, you forget about your assignment, you forget about your calling. When you are called to do a particular thing, you can be doing it sweatlessly without feeling it. When you are called to your assignment, when you are stuck on your assignment, when you are committed in your assignment, the things that people see to be suffering, you are the last person to see it. Why? Because the calling blinds you. You cannot see it. And so when parents, when couples, they begin to tell you things like, my own happiness matters too, you can tell that they have forgotten their assignment. That statement, my own happiness matters too, they forget how selfish they sound when they talk about their own happiness their own happiness matters too. I'm not saying you should not take care of yourself. I'm not saying you should not consider yourself. I'm not saying that you should not look out for yourself as well. But in the process of looking out for yourself, you should be looking out for yourself in regards to your assignment. So as a parent, when you're talking about looking out for yourself, ask yourself, this thing I'm about to do, this area of my happiness that I'm so interested in, how does this thing affect my family? How does it affect the well-being of my children? How does this affect the well-being of my spouse? How does this thing I am doing, how does this thing affect them positively? Is this thing I'm doing going to help them to grow? Is it going to help them become the person that they are meant to be? Sometimes the sacrifice that you need to put in is you need to sacrifice. Sometimes the sacrifice has to do with sleep. You have to sacrifice your own sleep. Sometimes you have to sacrifice your own material needs. If you have like 50,000 naira to take to go and do shopping for you, and you have maybe like 3 kids, you find out that if 50,000 naira was going to do that shopping for you, if you go to the market, you consider using maybe like 10,000 naira for yourself and use 40,000 naira with those kids. Those are the sacrifices you need to do as a parent. Those are the sacrifices you do for your children. And your children, they don't have to pay you. They don't have to compliment you. You are not doing it to win a trophy. And this is another area too where parents miss it. They think that they are doing it to win a trophy. They think they are doing it to win accolades. No, you are not doing it to win any certain kind of accolades from anybody or any institution at all. You're doing it because that is what you have been assigned to do. That is what you have been called to do. You begin to consider yourself more than your children. You begin to consider your own happiness more than your children. You can stand and talk, and the man can just wake up and beat the wife in front of the kids. He can slap the wife in front of the kids. He can kick the wife in front of the kids. He can talk to the wife in any way or form he likes in front of the kids without considering the mental state of those kids, without considering how this decision and how this thing is doing is going to affect the children psychologically. You might think that they are too small to know what is happening, but they know what is happening. They can observe, they can see what is happening. And all of those things are shaping the mentality of those children. It's shaping the psychology of those children. It's shaping the way they view the world. It's shaping the way they receive the world. And so the children begins to suffer. They begin to suffer because of your own negligence. They begin to suffer because the moment self begins to come in, you begin to do division of labor. Division of labor in the areas of things that are not supposed to be a competition. You begin to do division of labor. Oh, if he's not going to bat the kid, let the kids sleep like that. If he's not going to take care of the kids, let the kids remain like that. If he's not going to consider the kids or, cook for the kids, let the kids sleep hungry. All of those things are things that begins to affect the well-being of the children. These are things that naturally you get up to do because you love your kids. You get up to do them. You don't even think whether anybody is doing them, but because this is a need for my child and because my child needs this thing at this particular time, you get up to do it. But because now there is competition between the both of you, the children are now suffering out of the misunderstanding, just because you have a misunderstanding with your spouse. Because there are a lot of families that are going through problems. They are going through separations right now. And all you can think about is your own happiness. All you can think about is how selfish your spouse is. How selfish they are that they do not consider your own happiness. That they do not consider how you feel. But I want you to understand that in the process of making all of those things about you, that your children are suffering at the end of the day. That your children are the one taking the hits. And let me tell you something, whatever you invest in your children, you will definitely reap it in your old age. The day when your strength will fail you, those are the things you're going to reap from your children. The sacrifice, the things that you're refusing to teach your children today, the things they don't see you do today, they will not do it for you tomorrow. And so sometimes it's not just about how you feel. Sometimes you have to understand that what you are doing in the life of your spouse, in the life of your children, is planting a seed in their life that you will reap in the days where your strength will fail you. It's just like a farmer that goes out there to plant seed. There is none of those seasons that are convenient, that are favorable. During the time of weeding is always sun. You see sunshine everywhere. The sun is hitting very, very hard. And yet in the heat of that sun, you see farmers go out there to clear the place, to make sure that the soil is ready for the next planting season. So it is when they start doing all of those tilling and the rest of them, all of those times are not times that are favorable. They are not conditions that are convenient. Even during the planting season too is not always convenient. When you have to go out there to weed those grasses, and under the rain, under the sun, you're weeding those grasses because you don't want the wheat to overshadow your crops. You don't want the wheat to disturb the growth of that crop. All of those conditions are not favorable, but you do it because you have the harvest in mind. There is an expectation that you have in mind. And so whatever the case may be, whatever it takes from you, whatever the sacrifice, you do it without minding what it is costing you. Sometimes you are sick, but you still have to go and do those things. You still have to go and do it. But when you're going through the process of harvest, when you're harvesting those crops out of that farm, you look as if you forgot all of those times, all of those stress. You look as if you've forgotten all of them. Why? Because the joy of harvest outweighs all of the trouble that you went through during the planting season, during the season of preparation. The joy of the harvest outweighs them. So it is about raising a child. So it is about raising your spouse. So it is about investing in your family, investing in your children, making sure that your children get to the level that you do not get to. So it is about it. So while you're going through that divorce right now, while you're going through that separations right now, I want you to know the implications of what you are doing. Your children will never grow up in a home again in the rest of their life, because what we think is a home is not necessarily a home. We think that a home is a building. No, I've put this building, I bought a house for them. They are living comfortably. They are living comfortably in a house. I have a house for them. I pay the rent. I do everything. I make sure that they are comfortable. That's not what a home is. That's not what a home is. A home is a place where your children feel safe. A home is a place where your children feel protected. A home is a place where your children feel safe to air out their views. A home is a place where they don't feel judged. A home is a place where they feel accepted. A home is a place where they feel unconditional love. And so while you are going through the process of that divorce and the process of that separation, your children can no longer see unconditional love in the process, because our life is more about what we do more than what we say. Life, I want to say that again, and I need you to listen real good. Life is more than what you do than what you say. You can say that you love your children unconditionally, but do they feel that unconditional love from you? If they cannot feel the unconditional love the unconditional love from you, if they cannot see how you show that unconditional love to your wife, if they cannot see how you show the unconditional love to their daddy, no matter what you tell them about unconditional love, they will never learn what the meaning of unconditional love is. Because as children, they learn by observation more than they learn by reading and every other thing. They learn by the things they observe you do. And so they grow up like that. They grow up in that manner. They grow up in that same way. You come back from wherever you went to, whether work or wherever you went, you feel because you are the man of the house, you came back around 11, 12. You are the last person that came back from the house. Your wife asks you where you are coming from. You look at her and you ask her, why are you asking me that kind of stupid question? Are you okay? Because you feel you are the man of the house. You do not owe her the accountability, that level of accountability of telling her where you're coming from at that time. And your son is watching at you. Your daughter is looking at you. Your daughter is observing what you're doing. You wake up very early in the morning. You sit down in the dining while your wife goes into the kitchen. She has to prepare the food that the children will eat. She has to take care of the children. She has to bath the children and make sure that the children are ready for school. You are sitting down on the dining table. She will serve the kids, make sure the kids are okay, and she will also serve you too. Oh God, what are you doing that morning that you cannot be of help to her? Has she committed a crime by being your wife? You already know that your day does not start until around 11 o'clock. You already know that your appointment is by 11 o'clock. What does it take from you to wake up very early in the morning with your wife and say, okay, if you're bathing Junior, let me bath the baby girl. If you're taking care of the baby girl, let me take care of the boy. Okay, what are they going to eat? Okay, why not you go and bath them? Let me make sure that their school lunch box is ready. Cooperation. That is what love is. That is what unconditional love is. It's not about sitting down and calling yourself the boss. I call the shots here. It's no. That is not what it is about. The woman is doing all of that and she is tired. She is so exhausted. After doing all of those things, making sure that the kids are going to school, she still has to go to work. And then when she comes back from work again, the routine still continues too. And you are there in that house. She is in that house. She is frustrated being your wife. She is tired being your wife. She is tired raising the family. She feels like she's alone doing all of those things. And you are there. You are there. Bible says that one will chase 1,000, two will put 10,000 to flight. So when we come together as a spouse, when we come together as a family, there are certain things that we can do together that naturally we will not be able to do alone. That is the reason for marriage. That is the reason for family. That is the reason for coming together as husbands and wife. And when she does not feel it, you kill every joy that marriage comes with. All of a sudden, she begins to desire her single life again. She begins to desire going back again to being single. I'd already born children. I want to go back and enjoy my life again. Why? Because you're making marriage look like hell for her. Sometimes we think that we only make marriage look like hell for our spouse when we are cheating, or when we are not being faithful, or when we are being promiscuous, or we think it's only infidelity that makes marriage looks like hell for our spouse. Sometimes we make the home like hell for them. Because even though they are married to you, they still feel alone. They still feel alone in the things that they do. They still feel alone in the things that they are, in the responsibility that they have to carry in that house. So it is about the woman. The woman too can also make the man feel the same way too. You can also make the man feel the same way. When the man feels so much weight in how much he has to put joy in your face, in the things that he has to do to win you over every time of the day, that unless he comes back with paso, unless he comes back with gift, there is another version of you that he will never get to experience unless he brings gift to you. There is another version of you he will never experience except he takes you out for shopping. There's another version of you that he will never get to experience unless he lies down on the ground and allow you to step on him. Haba. All of these things are things that leads to divorce. And why all of these things are wrecking your home and breaking your home apart and tearing your home apart. The children are the ones suffering. The children are the ones going through all of these issues. The children are the ones growing up without a father, without a mother under the same roof. It affects them psychologically. It affects them mentally. And so when they go out there, there is a level of creativity. There is something about them that the society never gets to experience. There is something about them that the society never gets to experience, because that thing that would have been built in the house, that thing that would have been cultivated at home, you have robbed them of those things. Your child grew up without a father. Your son grew up without the mentorship of a father. And so the boy goes out there, he does not know what to expect out there in the real world as a man. Why? Because our women are not wired to take care of the boy. They are not wired to raise children. Their mothers spread them so much to stupor. And meanwhile, the man was supposed to raise them. There is a dysfunction in our society today. There is a stigma in our society today. There is a disease in our society today. Our parents, our children are being raised outside of what a home should be, outside of what a model of what a true home should be. You are separated now. The kids has to go live with your mother just because your work takes you from one place to the other, and you are not comfortable. You are not settled in one place. Evidently, you cannot take care of those children any longer. But your children has missed the opportunity of growing up in a home where they call their own. Even though these children are with your mom, or they are with your auntie, or they live in that house knowing fully well that this is not our house. This is not my father's house. It affects them mentally. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to some of those marriages that is in the brink of breaking up, that is in the brink of folding up. I'm talking about those marriages right now that you guys are waiting for your day in court. I am trying to let you see the danger of what you are about to embark on. Before you decide to sign those divorce papers and walk away from that woman for good, or walk away from that man for good, before you decide that you want to leave the children with the woman, before you decide that you are very, very strong because you think you have edge, or you think the society favors you more to have custody of those children, before you decide to take the children away from their father, or before you decide to take the children away from their mother, I want you to understand the implications of what you are doing to that child. You are tearing the home. You are tearing the model of what a home is in the life of that child. That child will never have the experience of what a home is like tomorrow. He will never have that experience. He will never grow up knowing fully well that there is something that is called perseverance. There is something that is called patience. There is something that is called unconditional love. That child will never know what that is, because it was not modeled in front of him, because it was not modeled in front of her. I am not saying that what your spouse is doing to you is good, but I am saying that apart from your own happiness, there is something that is far, far much important than your own happiness, that you definitely have to give account of tomorrow, not just in the face of the community or in the eyes of the community. You have to give account in the face of God. That thing you have to give account of is how your children turn out, or what your children turn out to be. And I want you to understand that anything you invest in the life of that child, see, even when you think you're not doing anything, or you're not investing anything, or they are not seeing your attitude, or they are not seeing your behavior, whether in your presence or in your absence, you are investing something in the life of your children. You are investing something, you are building something, you are sowing something in the life of your children. And you will never know what you're sowing in the life of that children until the day that your strength fails you, until the day you begin to depend on people to do certain things for you that you used to do for yourself. You will never know what that is. I am saying that being a parent is a calling. It's a calling. When you are called to do a particular thing, you are committed to what you are called to do, whether it is comfortable or not, whether it is convenient or not. You are committed to that level. Your calling has nothing to do with whether you are okay or whether you are happy or not. Your calling is an assignment, something that is required of you, something that you have to give account of. And so if this is something that is required of you, and you recognize that this is something that is required of you, you have to do it whether it is convenient or not. You have to do it whether you are comfortable or not. You have to do it whether you are happy or not. I don't know where couples get the notion that marriage, that you're supposed to be happy, you're supposed to be happy when you're married. Who told you have to be happy all the time? You don't have to be happy all the time. There are certain things that we should not do in marriage. There are certain things that we should not do, not just because of our calling, like I mentioned earlier, but because you have the fear of God in your life. That is another thing I feel like we have missed again in marriage, that we have missed again in relationship. That is another thing we have missed. We have forgotten about the fear of God. The day you decided to walk out of the life of your spouse, did you consider God? Did you consider that you have to give account before God how you treated your spouse? Did you consider it? The day you decided that you were going to carry another woman to go to that hotel because you traveled, you are in a 5-star hotel, nobody is seeing you, nobody is doing. The day you decided to go in with another woman, to go and enjoy your life with another woman, did you consider God? I'm not talking about your wife, because obviously your wife is nothing to you. She's somebody that you brought into the house and you're taking care of her, and so she does not have any say. She cannot talk where you are. She cannot even question you. But have you considered God? Did you consider that you will have to give account to God one day? That thing you went to do there that you thought nobody was watching. Did you consider that? The day you decided that you were going to be taking your money to be sponsoring that small boy that you call your sugar boy, or that you are taking care of, the day you decided that you were going to be having extramarital affairs with another man, did you consider God? Certain things has to be done with conscience. Certain things has to be done with conscience. I believe I've given you something to think about. I believe I've said things that are not comfortable. I believe I've said things that are not convenient. I think I've given you an eye-opener in certain things that you were ignorant about. If your marriage is at the breaking point right now, I want you to consider mending that marriage right now. Consider mending it. Because every sacrifice you put into that marriage, or every sacrifice you put into that relationship, you are going to reap it. You don't know what it's like to spend the rest of your life, not knowing what it was like for your child to celebrate her 10th birthday. Not being there when your child celebrated her 18th birthday. Not being there when your child graduated from secondary school. Not being there when your child graduated from the university. You will never know what it's like. Go back to the marriage. Not necessarily because you want to be in that marriage, but because it is something that you have been called to do. What you are seeing out there, what you think is green out there, it is not as green the way you think it is. Go back to your marriage, because that's your calling. Go back to your marriage, because tomorrow you'll be called to give an account of how you raise your children, or how your children turns out to be. Something will be an accountability will be required of you someday. Go back. Go back. Thank you so very much for being a part of today's podcast. If you haven't already, I want you to consider being a part of this journey. I want you to consider subscribing, and when you subscribe, also turn on the post notification, because I want you to be the first to know when the next video pops up. And also, why not share this video? Why not share this video? Because there are certain things that has been said in this video that are so striking. You might know a friend of two that is going through some hard times in their marriage, and maybe they are going through a period of divorce. Certain things you might not be able to tell them, or you will not be able to tell them, or you cannot tell them. But this video will do that for you. Why not share the video? Help that relationship today. Help that marriage today. And God bless you. I'm going to see you in the next video. Peace.